All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Today we are going to be taking a look at all of the cards that have been revealed so far from Targon. So we don't have, or from Call of the Mountain rather, is the name of the expansion. So we don't have the entire expansion yet. We are still missing quite a few cards. But I figure at this point we've had enough cards revealed that I'd like to talk about some of them. And once the entire set gets revealed, we'll do another one of these types of videos. And we'll take a look at where we think things are going to go once we see the entire set. But so far, where we're gonna start is we're just gonna do it in order of the cards revealed. So started with the new class. The new class is called Targon, or the new region rather is called Targon. It's going to be a support themed region because a lot of support champions are from Targon, so that does make sense. So the first card we're gonna be taking a look at is Tyree the Traveler. Now this is a 2-mana 2/2 with support, grant the supported ally plus O+2. So the first thing you're gonna think about looking at this card is kind of like War Chefs, right? It's instead of giving +1/+1, this is granting, so it gives the stats permanently. But a critical thing about this card is that it's giving just as much stats, right? +1/+1 as opposed to +0/+2, so it's the same amount. I think +1/+1 is probably worth more than +0/+2. Granting is super relevant, but given that this only has 2 health and not 3 health, I'm not entirely sure. Now, we do know, as we look through these cards, there's clearly going to be a support theme for Targon, so it's possible that just as a card that you play on turn 2 to fulfill your support role, like to fulfill your support triggers, this might be worth it. But I think in decks that aren't looking to only be supporting, I think Tyree the Traveler is a little understated. I think it's pretty interesting, but I think it's overall a little understated. I'm not expecting this to be an incredible card, but it could very well find a home in the support deck. Mountain Sojourners, I feel about the same way as Tyree. I think this is probably weaker than Tyree. So this is a 5-mana 5/2. This is super expensive for what you're getting. And so the idea, the dream of this card is when this thing supports something, if that thing that it's supporting is also supporting something else, it passes its buff along to everything that's supporting it, or to everything that it's supporting, so it can make a large support chain if you have a whole bunch of support units. But if you don't have that board full of support units, well, you just kind of spent 5 mana on a 2/5, and this card is looking rather underwhelming. But once again, I do want to point out this card is granting the stats. It's not giving the stats. So in the support deck, if this support deck can come to fruition, if this can be a good deck, this card can get out of control pretty quickly. Like if say you play this on turn 5, your turn 4 was a support unit and you have a turn 3 support unit, right? Well, all of a sudden this thing could be giving +4/+4 in stats. So you're spending 5 mana for a 6/9 effectively. And that's really good. If you can start getting double supports on the turn you're playing this, I think this card becomes very good. But I think as long as you're not, I think this card is going to be somewhat underwhelming. So we'll have to see how the support archetype ends up coming through. Again, we have Arbiter of the Peak. This is also a part of the support class, or the support deck. Every time that you support something or you target one of your units, this thing becomes cheaper by 1. So this is somewhat like the Giants from Hearthstone. This card reminds me of Arcane Giant quite a bit from Hearthstone. Now it's worth noting that this is only a 6/6 rather than what Giants are 8/8s. Giants are huge in Hearthstone. This card isn't nearly as big. This does have Overwhelm. I think out of all the support themed cards so far, this is probably one of the better ones that we've seen. But I'm not entirely sure. I think Arbiter of the Peak is gonna get there. This card reminds me a lot like the Scuttlegeist, which we know doesn't see any play whatsoever currently, and it reminds me of the the Plaza Guardian. It reminds me of Plaza Guardian, as opposed to, instead of having Overwhelm, that thing has Quick Attack, and they both cost 10. The cards are very similar, but yeah, we haven't seen that type of reduce my cost as the game goes on card. We haven't seen that card become great yet. Like the same for the Ancient Yeti. That card hasn't really seen much play yet. So I'm not sure about the Arbiter of the Peak. It is very possible that in the support deck this card is crucial. It's very possible that this card is crucial for the support deck. But so far with the cards that we've seen, I'm not a big believer in this support deck at the moment. Bastion. Now, if this card works the way I understand that this card works, this card is nuts. Now, the way I understand this card working is it gives your unit spell shield, and the way spell shield works is that unit that has spell shield is going to ignore the first effect that is affecting it, right? So to my understanding, if your opponent uses Ruination and you have a Bastion in hand, you can Bastion one of your units to protect them from a Ruination. So to my understanding, this can be used to stop AoE effects. It can be used to stop single target removal, all at 3 costs. So this is kind of like a 3 cost deny in that sense. And now deny at 3 mana was insane. And this is burst speed. So there are some situations where it being at burst speed is kind of a hindrance, some situations where it's better. So a situation where it's a hindrance would be something like your opponent just vengeance your unit, right? So this vengeance is on the stack targeting your unit. You bastion your unit to protect it. Now your opponent can Vile Feast in response. They'll get your spell shield, and then they'll get the vengeance through. Whereas opposed to it being a fast speed, you wouldn't have that situation come through, and the vengeance wouldn't kill the unit. But I think the sheer fact that this can create incredible blowout situations for 3 mana at burst speed, I think Bastion is one of the stronger set cards so far revealed from this new color. I think Bastion is going to be a mainstay in Targon, and I could be wrong, but to me, this just seems very, very deny-esque to me. And I think the fact that it's so much like deny, I think it's a very strong card. Taric. So Taric is a 4 mana 2/4. This guy is going to be good for your Tyree the Traveler, Mountain Sojourners support deck. And Taric is pretty legit. So when he supports something, he gives himself and whatever he's... Ruination is still going to eat the rest of your board, though? Yeah, Ruination is going to eat the rest of your board, but, like, what if I kept my... Like just any kind of threatening unit, right? Like, I keep a 5/5 on board, even just a 5/5. A 5/5 is going to pressure really hard. A Lee Sin is going to pressure really hard. A Leviathan is going to pressure really hard. Like, that type of card, if you're able to protect this type of card, like that expensive type of card from that type of removal, I think Bastion becomes very powerful. So Taric is nice. He's going to be giving things tough when he supports them. He's going to be giving himself tough. So he's effectively a 4 mana 2/5 that gives whatever is next to him tough. Another thing to note is Taric is going to have a lot of gems. We'll take a look at gems later. But gems are pretty relevant for Taric. What I really like about Taric is actually his hero power, or his hero spell, the Blessings of Targon. I really like this card. I know it's expensive for what it is, Taric's Blessing of Targon, but this being Taric's spell, I think is really important, because being able to have this type of +3/+3 effect in your deck at no cost, just at the simple cost of I have Taric on the field, so I might have this +3/+3, and you have to respect this +3/+3, that's huge. And you can use the +3/+3, buff up your Taric, and then it becomes kind of like, you buff up your Taric, you buff up the thing that Taric is supporting, and then this becomes, in a way, like a 5 mana back-to-back. Now, you don't have the flexibility of using it mid-combat after blockers were declared, but I think that's okay. I think that's going to be okay. So if this support deck ever comes through, I think Taric is going to be very important to that deck. I'm still really not sold on the support deck. So we're going to have to see what happens with that. And so when Taric is leveled, his supported ally can't take damage or die this round. And yeah, so generally, when he's attacking and he's supporting things, if you cast a spell, he's going to copy that spell. And then when he's leveled up, he also gives that unit indestructible and can't die. Can't take damage, can't die. Gift Giver, 1 mana 1/2. When I'm summoned, create a gem in hand. So gem, let's see if we can just... Yeah, here's gem. Gem is a 1 mana burst speed spell, heal an ally for 1 and grant it +1/+0. So this is almost +1/+1. It can't be used cast in combat in response to a spell, which is very relevant. But this is essentially like, this is almost giving you +1/+1. And 1 mana for +1/+1, that's super relevant, because it's so flexible. I see these gems, and the first place my mind goes with them is Lee Sin. I think Lee Sin will use the gems very well. They're a 1 mana trigger to activate Lee Sin for level up. They're burst speed so that you can use them before Lee Sin goes to combat, so you can give him Challenger, you can give him Barrier. I think these are going to work pretty well with Lee Sin. And they're cheap and they're abundant. Like, you have this Gift Giver, you have Mountain Goat, which is a 2 mana 3/1. What do I think of the Infinite Taric with Trickster? Yeah, I know that combo exists. But does that... So, does that combo actually do damage to the face? Because you attack with Tark, you attack with the supported ally, you Playful Trickster them both, right? So don't they not actually deal combat damage? Because Playful Trickster removes them before combat damage is dealt, right? It removes them from combat. So to me, that's just the troll combo. You get infinite attacks, but your attacks aren't doing anything. Unless I'm misunderstanding something. I could be misunderstanding something about that combo. But to my understanding, that combo seems like a meme. Mountain Goat Strike creates a gem. I think this is significantly worse than Gift Giver. I think Gift Giver is going to be an excellent way of getting your gems. Mountain Goat, it's a 3/1, so it's gonna die to Make It Rain. It's gonna die to Vile Feast. It's gonna die to a lot of things, and it's reliant on striking to get the gem. So I don't think this one is particularly good. Mentor of the Stones is going to support to grant your supported ally +2/+2. So once again, this is grant. It's giving those effect permanently, giving that effect permanently. And the Last Breath, this creates 3 gems in hand. So this is 3 mana to draw 3 gems, which I think is very, very good for that. And then if he's able to support something, he's like, this guy is gonna die whenever he attacks, right? I expect him to die anytime you get to attack with him. So him supporting something, it's gonna have to support something relevant. It's gonna have to have those stats giving it to something relevant. But getting 3 gems, I think that's really big game. A lot of decks can make use of that. Ezreal can make use of 3 gems. Lee Sin can make use of 3 gems. Fiora can make use of the support and the 3 gems. I think this card is could be pretty decent. I think this card could definitely be pretty decent when it comes to giving you gems. And when it comes to just this support gemmy archetype. It's still really hard to say how Targon is going to play because we're still missing so many of the cards from Targon. Shards of the Mountain, 4 mana, slow speed, fill your hand with gems. This seems like a meme. So this seems like a meme, but filling your hand with gems is still relevant because, like I was saying, this is really good with Ezreal. This is still useful for Lee Sin. Like, if you're drawing 5 gems off of this, 6 gems off of this, is that worth it? That might be worth it. I'm really not sure. I don't think Shards of the Mountain is that great, though. I'm not expecting this to be a great card, but there's a possibility, man. There's a possibility you can get OTK'd by this card. I can't deny that. So we looked at Blessings of Targon already. Alright, so Young Witch. This card is excellent. 2 mana, 1/1 elusive. So this blocks your enemy elusives. This blocks Fizz. This is just going to come in at 2 mana. It's going to beat your opponent up, and they're going to have to commit a real card to deal with your Young Witch. And every time this thing is attacking, it's supporting something. So that's super relevant. This is, once again, going to be super relevant for that support deck. And this guy is it's a good target to be supported as well. Because it's only a 1/1. Like, if you play this on turn 2 and, like, Lulu on turn 3, we haven't looked at Lulu yet. But, like, Lulu on turn 3, this is supporting, Lulu supporting this, and and this thing becomes a 4/4, which is pretty relevant. Or you can have this support the Lulu. I think this card is really solid. I think it's just checking all the boxes. It's really flexible. It has a great keyword. Its stat line isn't great, but that's fine because it's elusive. And giving things +1 attack and quick attack, that's very relevant. Especially since this guy's already going to be just chipping away at your opponent every turn. Flower Child. When I'm supported, grant me +2/+0. This is clearly important for the support deck, right? Because this card wants to be supported. But this doesn't add to the support deck, right? This card doesn't help the other cards in the support deck. This card says you all have to help me. I'm an important card to the support deck, and you all must support me for the support deck to work. So the support deck already needs to be in a good enough position that it can afford to play this 1 mana 2/0 that doesn't actually advance the support game plan, but rather gets advanced by the support game plan, if that makes sense. So this is completely dependent on if that support deck gets there. If this card sees play, it's going to be completely dependent on that. This sees play and nothing else other than the support deck. Fuzzy Caretaker. When I'm supported, give me +0/+3 this round, and support give my supported ally +3/+0 this round. Yeah, once again, this is for that support deck. I'm still not a believer in the support deck, really. I think spending 4 mana for a 3/3, that's very expensive for the most part. But this guy Yeah, this is for this round too, so this doesn't grant. This doesn't grant. It's like, is this card better than Tark? Because it's competing for Tark in that same slot, right? Because they're both for the support deck, so it's competing with Tark. It's not competing with Mountain Sojourners, but like in a way it sort of is, because they're both fitting. To me, out of all the support cards, this feels like one of the weaker ones so far. So I'm not sure. Tasty Feyfolk. This card is sick. This card is nuts. This card isn't gonna see a ton of play. It's not. But this card is insane. I was playing War Mother's Control, and I was just main decking the 4/3 frog, or the 3/2 frog, the one that tosses cards and has lifesteal. I was main decking that. So if I was willing to main deck that, somebody's got to be willing to main deck this, because this is a strict upgrade. So this card has to be good. Is it excellent? Probably not. But is it good? Probably. This is a grappler. Everyone knows this is a grappler. What more is there to say? Grappler is unfortunately an unplayable card, even though he is quite a powerful Runeterra player and streamer. But the Swole Squirrel is not quite what he's looking for. Lulu looks cracked out of her mind. She's a 3-mana 2/3. Whenever she supports an ally, she's going to be setting it to 4/4 this round. It says it grows up to 4/4. So if your unit is bigger than a 4/4, I'm assuming it doesn't get changed. I'm assuming it doesn't drop in stats if it supports something, but I'm actually curious how that works. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I think this could tempo you out. Like I was saying, like with the witch, with the young witch, you can get tempoed out pretty hard by Lulu. I think Lulu is pretty solid. Correct? That was confirmed. Okay, cool. So it won't get debuffed to 4/4 if it's bigger than a 4/4. That's good to know. And to level her up, she only has to support things 3 times. She doesn't have to be on board to see the supports either. So that's somewhat relevant. So let's take a quick look at her other things that she does. She's going to be giving you a Whimsy. Whimsy is going to be 4 mana, transform an enemy follower into a 1/1 squirrel and silence it this round. I think this is really strong. I think this is excellent removal. Because keep in mind that Ionia doesn't really get hard removal, right? Ionia isn't allowed to outright kill things. Ionia is allowed to temporarily deal with an issue. And Whimsy is going to temporarily deal with whatever issue your opponent's putting in play. And it's going to temporarily set it to a 1/1 and remove its effects. So say your opponent has... What's a very relevant last words effect? I can't even think of any. But say your opponent has a relevant last words effect in play, right? Well, now you can Whimsy it. You can silence the effect off of it, and then you can kill it that same turn. So you can Whimsy something mid-combat as well, and I believe the units will just... So you Whimsy your opponent's 5/5 on your 2/2, and they just bash. Their 5/5 turns into a 1/1, they bash, your 2/2 lives. I think this is going to be really solid. I think this fits nicely into Ionia's pool of removal spells. Lulu, once leveled up, is going to give you a Help Pix in hand, and she's going to buff things to a 5/5 rather than a 4/4. So Help Pix is going to give an ally barrier or an enemy vulnerable this round, and it can't be cast in combat in response to a spell. So this is going to let you set something up to remove your opponent's threats. You can potentially Whimsy something on their board. You can Help Pix it to give it vulnerable, and then you can beat it up. You have quite a few things you could do with this. I think it's legit. I think this is pretty legit. This is just, it's free, right? You get one every turn. You can use it to protect something so that your unit can attack in for free. This is just going to be solid, I think. Lulu is going to be a solid card. I'm not really sure what deck is interested in the Lulu card. It's clearly the support deck, right? But it's still hard for me. It's hard to imagine what the support deck looks like at the moment. But I think it's legit. I really do. I think there's a possibility that the support deck could get there, but I'm more leaning towards it's not going to be good than it is going to be good at the moment. So Pix itself is just going to be a card. So Pix is going to be a 1 mana 0/1, and it's going to give a supported ally +2/+1. And this is really solid, I think, actually. Is this solid? It's weird. This is, in a way, it's a 1 mana 2/2, right? In a way. Pix is an excellent target to be supported. because he's a one, like by Lulu, Pix will turn him into, or Lulu will turn Pix into a beater. And Pix can continue to support other things. I think this card is actually pretty decent because it gets your support chain started as early as heck. It comes down on turn 1, it's ready to support other things, it's ready to be supported. I think this card is solid. Fey Guide, 4 mana 3/3, grant an ally elusive. Yeah. This seems just like Draft Chaff. I don't see what deck would want to be playing this. I think you'd rather just be playing like actual elusives instead of the Fey Guide. I don't really know where you would play this, to be completely honest. I think if you're looking to give things elusive, like, you could play Sumpworks map. Maybe this is better than Sumpworks map, though. Startled Stomper is going to be a 2 mana 2/3 Overwhelm. This guy is decent for buffs. He carries buffs pretty well. But on his own, he's kind of whack. He's just a 2 mana 2/3, no effect really. I don't expect this to really see much constructed play, but there is definitely some type of deck that would be interested in playing this card and having constructed play with it. Some kind of deck that's supporting the Startled Stomper. The Startled Stomper, if it gets buffed up by a Lulu, will be a 4/4 Overwhelm. That's pretty solid. If you're buffing your units up enough, the Startled Stomper could be a decent enough target to be worth including. Squirrel, this is just going to be your token from Whimsy. Yeah, it's just your token from Whimsy. Alright, so now we're getting to the interesting stuff. These are the cards that I'm pretty interested in. I really like these Freljord cards. So, Faces of the Old One. Round start. If you behold an 8-cost card, you get an extra mana gem this round. So, Behold's effect is, if you have it, you can reveal it from your hand, or you have it in play. As long as you have something that costs 8 or more, the effect is going to trigger. And now I don't believe Behold is exclusively for 8 costs. I believe there are going to be other things that are going to be beholding things. I just don't think we've seen them yet. So far, everything that beholds cares about 8 cost cards. But so this is just going to be a cheaper copy of Warding Stones. It has less health, but it is going to be ramping you sooner. So this could be relevant, right? If you play this on turn 2, you could get to a turn 4 Trundle. We'll take a look at Trundle in a little bit. This could kind of get out of hand. I'm not 100% you want to be playing this yet in the decks, because we've seen in Runeterra, ramp for the most part has been relatively weak, and that might just continue to be the case, because this doesn't seem like an excellent ramp card. It just seems like a good ramp card. So I'm not sure if this card actually sees play, but I think it's pretty interesting. The thing is, you're going to play this, it doesn't require you to reveal the Beheld card by default. How does it work then if you don't have a beholded card in play? If you don't have a beholded card that fits that requirement in play, you have to reveal the card to trigger the behold, right? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But this is going to die to Mystic Shot. This is going to die to so much stuff still that I'm not sure this is worth it. I'm not sure this is worth it. Troll Scavenger, 2 mana 1/3. When I'm summoned, if you behold, grant me +3/+0. This is a 2 mana 4/3. Yeah, this is a 2 mana 4/3. Oh, I see. So it doesn't actually reveal it to your opponent. It just checks. That's pretty relevant, actually, because not giving your opponent that information is a big deal. Yeah, 2 mana 4/3, just not a good card. This is Slump Dredger. This is Slump Dredger. This is the Cursed Keeper. But the thing is, Cursed Keeper is so much better than this card, because Cursed Keeper is in a region that really cares about having the extra thing to kill for free. So I don't think this card is great. But honestly, this might just be enough for like an aggro beats Freljord deck. I'm really not sure. There might be some kind of mid-rangey aggro beats Freljord deck, but this card seems so weird to me. I don't think this card is great. Troll Ravager, 4 mana 3/5. When I'm summoned, behold and grant me regen. So this is a 4 mana 3/5 regen. It's a wall. 4 mana 3/5 is regen is kind of hard to deal with. It's hard to attack into that. But the thing is, I feel like a 3/5 becomes irrelevant relatively quickly for a lot of decks. Like, you're playing this on turn 4, and then on turn 5, the 5-power units are coming out. Like, nobody plays Swiftwing Lancer anymore, but, like, you're playing this on turn 4, Swiftwing is coming down on turn 5, or just vanilla 5/5s are coming down on turn 5. I feel like this guy gets kind of outclassed pretty quickly. He's really good in small ball matchups, like against aggressive decks, where your opponents really don't go over 3 power, 4 power. This guy is a wall. And this guy is a dangerous wall for those decks. So if the metagame becomes like a whole bunch of these beatdown decks that can't easily get over a Troll Ravager, this card could be very insane. But I kind of don't think this card is that insane. Uzgar the Ancient. This guy is probably not good, but this guy is dope. I love it, dude. This guy is, oh man, what's the name of that card? What's the name of it's the 7-mana 7/4 Overwhelm Challenger, dude. I love that card. It's so bad. And this card is basically that. Instead of having Overwhelm, this thing has Regeneration. Now, there is a world where this thing kind of just comes down and just beats something up every turn, and then it takes over the board. But I don't think that realistically happens in Constructed. I think that happens in, there is a 5-cost, 4/5 Regeneration Overwhelm in Freljord. Yeah, but 5-cost and 4-cost are a huge difference. 5 and 4-cost are a huge difference. I don't think this card is particularly great, the Uzgar the Ancient, but I really like this card. I think this card is really just going to see play in arenas, though, or expeditions. That's where you're going to see this card. Troll Chant, this card is kind of like a bigger Elixir of Iron, in a way. It's going to give your dude, bro, he's going to give him 2 HP, and it's going to neuter the enemy 2 HP, or 2 power. So you can use this to, like, flip a combat for you. It's like, this card could see play, but it's just like, this is fulfilling the same role as Elixir of Iron or Brittle Steel. This is fulfilling the same type of effect as that card. So the question is just, when you want those effects, which versions of those effects do you want, I suppose? This could make swings of 4, right? Because it neuters your opponent's power by 2, and it gives your dude 2 more HP. So this could make it so that your trolls can, like, they can soak up an extra 4 damage. So that's relevant. It might be relevant enough. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. This is really just like a bigger Elixir of Iron. We all know Elixir of Iron is playable. The question is which decks are interested in it. I think it's the same type of question for Troll Chant. But it could very well be true that just the decks that are interested in Elixir of Iron are going to stay interested in Elixir of Iron, and they won't be interested in Troll Chant. Just because Elixir of Iron costs 1 and Troll Chant costs 2. So it's hard to say. Call of the Wild. This card is sick. This is nothing like Call of the Wild from Hearthstone. That card was absolutely busted. This card is significantly less busted. This card for 3 mana is going to just be drawing you a bunch of stuff. So if your deck is built to have a lot of Poros in it, or it's built to have a lot of Yetis, or it's built to have a lot of Elnuks, say if it's 30 out of 40 cards are units that this can pull, this card is for 3 mana drawing you 3 cards. And I think that's pretty good for 3 mana. Like, what in this game, drawing 2 cards is priced at 4 mana in this game, right? Because you have salvage. You're happy to pay 4 mana to draw 2. So if Call of the Wild, even though Call of the Wild isn't drawing you the most insane cards, it's looking for specific cards, and generally, like, I imagine the deck that's actually going to be playing this the most is going to be the Poro deck. I don't really think there's a dedicated Yeti deck, and I don't think there's a dedicated Elnuk deck, but I think one day we're going to have a dedicated Poro deck. And this card can draw you a bunch of cards in that dedicated Poro deck. So it could very well be a decent enough card. The issue is that drawing Poros, you're only drawing 1/1s, so that's not the best. So it's hard to say with this card, but this card could very well be good. If you're drawing 3 cards for 3 mana, this card has to be insane. So this is just a matter of time before this card really starts doing what it needs to do, I think. Trundle, I really, really like Trundle's design. I think they did an excellent job with Trundle. So he's a big Garen. Instead of a 5/5, he's a 4/6. He's got regen. And when he's summoned, he puts an Ice Pillar in your hand, and he levels up when he sees you play the Ice Pillar. So let's take a quick look at what Ice Pillar is. Now, Ice Pillar is an 8-mana 0/8 with Vulnerable. And when you play it, you refill 8 mana. And then on play and at round start, it gives the strongest enemy Vulnerable. So it makes it so that you're going to play this. It's not going to cost you any mana. This is going to refund all the mana that you invested into this. It costs 8, it refunds 8. This is going to come down. If your Trundle's on board, it's going to level your Trundle immediately. Your Trundle's going to become a 5/7 Overwhelm Regeneration. And then he's going to be able to target the strongest enemy that your opponent controls and beat the crap out of it. He's going to get +1/+0 for everything you're beholding. If you've already put the Ice Pillar in play, he's getting at minimum 1 power, so he's going to be a 6/7 regen attacker. This guy is really solid. I think it's going to put a lot of pressure as long as the Ice Pillar exists on the board. It's going to be really difficult for your opponent to continue to build up a board because Trundle's just going to be able to free farm their strongest thing every turn. I want to talk about this card, the Ice Pillar specifically, a little bit later when we get to another card, because I think it's very interesting with another card as well. So let's take a look at Ice Quake real quick. Now, some people I'm actually hearing most people say they don't like Ice Quake. They think Ice Quake is very weak. I disagree. I disagree with that sentiment. I think Ice Quake looks underwhelming, and I think on a lot of board states, Ice Quake is going to be underwhelming. But the thing is, now Freljord is not only allowed to play 3 copies of Avalanche, it's also now allowed to play 3 copies of Ice Quake. And if you have Trundle in your deck, you can be having up to 5 copies of Ice Quake in your deck. So all of a sudden, you have so much AoE. Imagine you're just a regular mid-range deck, right? And you're queuing into a deck that's playing triple Avalanche, triple Ice Quake, triple Ruination, triple Vengeance. And then it's playing some healing. It's playing Withering Wail, it's playing Grasp of the Undying, and then it's just playing some value stuff that's going to eventually win the game, right? It becomes very difficult to develop into that board. Your stuff needs to be really, really big to develop into that board. A lot of things are going to get killed by Ice Quake, whether people want to admit it or not. It's really hard to develop into this card, especially when on turn 5, right? I could have 3 mana banked. So on turn 4, I have 3 mana banked already, right? So now I can go Avalanche if my opponent develops. And then on their turn again, they have the choice of, well, I just got my board wiped. Am I going to try developing again, or am I just going to attack with whatever I have? If they try to develop again, you get to Ice Quake their board now. And now you're going to remove most of their board. And let's be real, 1 or 2 things might survive, right? So let's say a 5/5 survived, right? Well, that 5/5 is only going to be a 2/2 that turn because Ice Quake just neutered it. So Ice Quake essentially removed the board, or removed a large percentage of the enemy board, and if it neuters 1 or 2 units by power, it's going to be healing you 3 or 6 HP. That's really good. I think this card is really good. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm really overrating this card because it seems like everyone else is saying this card is really bad. But I think that's just because we've lived in a world where Avalanche hasn't really been the best card. And I think Avalanche isn't the best card because Freljord can't really support Avalanche the way it needs to yet. That's my hot take on this card. I think this card is straight up playable. I really do. Augur of the Old Ones. This is going to be a 6 mana 5/5 with Overwhelm and Regeneration. That's pretty beefy. This is going to attack into a lot of things. And if you behold something, he's going to give something else Overwhelm and Regeneration. I don't know what you're trying to give Overwhelm and Regeneration, but if there's a lot of things that you can give Overwhelm and Regeneration, that's going to be a pain in the butt. Radiant Guardian is really tricky. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are really tricky. Even just this guy, like, even if you're not going to play the Uzgar, but, like, even this guy, just with Overwhelm, is legit. I think out of all the troll cards, this is one of the better ones, the Augur. I think this, like, 6 mana 5/5 is already a playable stat line, and then giving somebody else 2 playable effects, I think is pretty relevant. Vi, oh my god, this is disgusting on Vi. Yeah, you're right. This is really obnoxious on Vi. I think this is really legit. Maybe it's not going to see a ton of play, but this card is legit. Alright, so a Targon card, Broad-Backed Protector, 4 mana 2/7. At start round, heal your Nexus 3, deal damage to me equal to the amount healed. So this guy is going to be healing you. If he just chills on the board and never blocks anything, this is 4 mana heal 9. Is 4 mana heal 9 good? Probably not. Maybe it's not bad. But if your deck is able to heal this guy a bunch, and you're able to keep him topped off on health, and you're able to get like 1 good trade out of him and 2 effects off of him, so he's getting like he blocks something and he also heals you for 6, and you're able to like make use of him, you're able to support him and like do relevant things with him. Hey, maybe this card just puts in enough work. It kind of reminds me, and this is a terrible comparison, honestly. This is an awful comparison. But there's a card from Hearthstone called Priest of the Feast, which was a 4-mana 3/6. And that guy, every time you cast the spell, healed you for 3. And that guy got out of control really quickly. And I think this is still a bad comparison because he was a 4-mana 3/6. He didn't hurt himself. Yeah, actually, when I compare this guy to Priest of the Feast, this guy starts looking kind of bad. I think it's going to be difficult for this card to really do what it needs to do. But I think there is a possibility that if you're able to keep this guy topped off, like if there's something that's going to be providing constant healing to your board, maybe this guy just becomes enough of a nuisance that he's just hard to kill. Yeah, give this guy the regen effect. Yeah, if you give this guy overwhelming regeneration, now all of a sudden you're healing a whole bunch every turn, and he's just a 2/7 that just sits on the board. All right. This is one of the cards I'm most excited about so far from this expansion. Revitalizing Roar. So Revitalizing Roar is a 7-mana slow spell. Pick a unit in your hand to reveal. Heal your Nexus by its power. Enlightened, reduce its cost to 0. So it heals it by its power. So in my mind, one of the first places my mind goes to combo with this card, and now it's not great because Ice Pillar is not going to heal you, right? Ice Pillar has 0 power. But Revitalizing Roar with Ice Pillar enables ridiculous combos. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is, say at some point in the game I landed a Revitalizing Roar on my Ice Pillar. I healed 0 HP, so I somehow managed to navigate a board situation where I can just take 7 mana off to do that, right? So say I managed to do that. Now I can go, wait until you're about to do something dangerous. I Wrath of God your board, so I play the Ruination. Well, now I'm out of mana. You still have a bunch of mana. Or you still have some amount of mana. But now I get to slam the 0/8. It's going to refill all my mana. So I can, if I have full mana, if I walk into turn 10 with 3 spell mana, and this thing already discounted, I could Ruinate the board, I can play the Pillar, and then I can also go War Mother's Call in the same turn. If you roar the Pillar, its cost becomes 0 and shouldn't proc Behold any longer. Yeah, but why does that matter? I don't care about the Behold. I care about playing 2 expensive cards in the same turn with this. To me, that's what I think the Ice Pillar is for. I think the Ice Pillar is for enabling combos. And I think that, or rather not the Ice Pillar, I think that's what the Revitalizing Roar is for. Like, you can have a 0-cost Karma. 0-cost Karma you can definitely do something nuts with. You can probably do something nuts with a 0-cost Ezreal, but realistically this doesn't see play in an Ezreal deck because why would this? But I really think there's combos that you can do with this card that we haven't realized you can do yet. And I think there's going to be some disgusting stuff you can create with Revitalizing Roar. Like, alright, this takes 3 colors, so you can't do this. You can only do this in Expedition. But, like, eventually this combo has to work, I feel like. Not this combo specifically, but some Revitalizing Roar combo. Because if I have the Revitalizing Roar on the Ice Pillar, right? In the same turn, or not even on the Ice Pillar, if I just have Revitalizing Roar, I could go. And once again, these are using 3 different colors, so you realistically can't actually do this. It's just more to get the idea across of some combos that could exist moving forward with this card. But you can go in the same turn Dreadway Ledros. If you have a Revitalizing Roar on one of those 2, the other one's free, so you just win the game immediately. And I think there's going to be some kind of I just win the game combos with Revitalizing Roar at some point. Resplendent Stellacorn, 5 mana 4/5, play, heal an ally and your Nexus 3. Is this good? Probably not. This is probably just a draft card. This might just be enough stats. It's a 5 mana 4/5, which is pretty understated. Like, you probably just want a 5 mana 5/5 at that rate. I think since this guy is a 4/5 and not a 5/5, this card probably just bad. It's kind of where I stand on it. Steigen Onlooker. Steigen Onlooker is a 1 mana 2/1 with Nightfall, giving +2/+0 and fearsome this round. This guy is just going to be he's just going to be a mainstay in that Nightfall deck. Realistically, I don't see why the Nightfall deck wouldn't play this card. It can beat down pretty hard. It gets fearsome. It's a good finisher, right? At the end of the game, once you're going for your Nocturne turn, You can have the Steigen Onlooker come down. He with the with Nocturne on board, he's going to give the whole board neg power. And he himself is going to have Fearsome, so he's going to be able to get through and push some decent damage. I think this card is just going to be able to pressure well. This card is just going to be decent for the deck interested in the Nightfall deck. Doom Beast, excellent card for the Nightfall deck once again. Doom Beast is a 3-mana 3/2, so this is the frog stat line, the 3-mana 3/2 with Drain. It's got that stat line, but instead of it having Drain, instead it's got Nightfall. It's going to drain and gain from the enemy nexus for 2. And that's really solid. This is now, you just have a decent body. 3-mana 3/2 is a fine body. It's not the best, but it's not bad either. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's not bad either. And this guy is just, he's burn. He is reach, and he is burn in a region that doesn't have a ton of reach and burn, right? Shadow Isles has, as far as reach goes, it has Atrocity. It has, what's his name? The 2/4. He's got the 5-mana 2/4, the Neverglade Collector, and you have Prankster. Is there any more? Is that all the reach? I think that's all the reach. So just the sheer fact that Shadow Isles has more, this is super relevant. This card is really playable. I really think a lot of decks are gonna, like, any deck that's in Shadow Isles that's also just looking to beat the crap out of its opponent is probably gonna be looking to play Doom Beast. Like, I see this card seeing play. I see this card just slotting in perfectly fine into They Who Endure. Maybe I'm wrong. This is just free sustain from They Who Endure, an extra free 2 points of burn. That deck is already playing a bunch of 1-cost stuff, so why not play another one? I think this card is free. I think this card is really good. Dusk Rider, this card is trash. This is a 5-mana 2/5 Fearsome. This is just the Nightfall payoff, and it's poor payoff at best. I don't expect this card. Like, this is imagine the worst case situation where you're just like, wow, I triggered Nightfall once this game. Give me my 5-mana 3/5 Fearsome. Let's go. This card sucks. Passage Unearned. This card does not suck. This card is going to be impossible to actually play in your deck. This is a really weird one, because to me, this is exclusively a sideboard card. If you guys have ever played Magic the Gathering, you guys know the power of having sideboard cards and having cards that you can bring out of your deck from after game 1, and you can bring in cards that are really strong against other decks in game 2. And Passage Unearned is nuts. All right, this for 3 mana. For 3 mana, you hard counter the what's the name of the card? The Harrowing. For 3 mana, you hard counter their 9 mana spell. This card can create insane swings. The issue becomes what the floor for this card is so bad that you can't, against a deck where this is actually a dead draw, and there are going to be a lot of decks where this is actually going to have no text. This card has no text whatsoever for a lot of matchups. Because of those matchups, you can't main deck the Passage Unearned. So it's going to require a specific metagame, or it's going to require a format where you're allowed to bring cards in after game 1. But if that format ever exists, this card is nuts. This card is nutty. This is so efficient for what it does. It's so undercosted for what this card does. It's going to blow people out. It's going to blow somebody out. But it's also good against the Anivia, yeah. When I said Harrowing, I in my mind, I think the Anivia deck. This card is nutty. This card is nutty against... This is a silver bullet against specific things and hot trash against others. So it's going to require a lot of things to go its way for this card to actually see play. But that doesn't mean it's a bad card. This is an excellent card. Encroaching Shadows. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already heard people talking about the degeneracy that you can do with this card in elusives. If you have a Green Glade duo on board, and then you go Navori Blade Scout, Navori Blade Scout, you're hitting your opponents for how much damage is it? It's 6. That's 14 damage, right? That's 14 damage for 4 mana. So that's an 8 mana combo to do 14 damage to your opponent. This card just enables busted combos. And even if you're not just looking for the elusive deck that a lot of people are talking about, this card can even just be enough support to bring Hecarim and to bring Shark Chariots a little bit more up to par with other decks. I think this is probably stronger for the elusive deck still, But this deck could be good for Shark Chariots as well. I think when Riot made this card, they made it with Shark Chariots in mind, not with Elusives in mind. But this card is very good with both. And it's probably better with Elusives than it is with Shark Chariots. So Shroud of Darkness. Next time you summon an ally this round, give it +1/+0 and Spell Shield. I don't understand this card. I don't really know when you want this. You want this on your finisher? So, like, you want this on, like, your elusive finisher? But not every deck is going to be giving you something to use the Spell Shield on anyway. You're not always going to actually get to use the Spell Shield. And this is costing you an entire card. Like, Key Guardian gave you the barrier. Key Guardian gave you the barrier, and it drew you a card, and Key Guardian really doesn't see much play. To me, this seems like a worse Key Guardian, but it's very possible that I'm very wrong about this, and this card is actually pretty solid. It's very possible this card is solid. But I'm leading towards this is costing you too much. You think it's just a Nightfall activator? Yeah, this does trigger your Nightfalls quite easily. Like, this is nice if you go, like, you play this at the start of your turn, and then you go Nocturne, and then you can, like, kind of combo off that turn, and your Nocturne is protected with the Spell Shield. But I'm not 100% on the Shroud of Darkness. Let's take a look at Nocturne. So Nocturne is 4 mana, 5/3, so he's got the Ash stat line. He's got Nightfall, grant an enemy vulnerable, and give enemies -1/-0 this round. And he'll flip once you've attacked with 5 Nightfall allies. So it's going to take him a little bit to flip, but really, it's not going to take him too long. You have quite a bit of Nightfall allies. Like, I'm not 100%, but if you play this guy on turn 1 without triggering the Nightfall and attack with him still, I believe he still triggers Nocturne. So this guy Nocturne can get leveled up pretty quickly. He himself has Fearsome, and once he's leveled up, he's going to become a 6/4, and gives your entire board Fearsome, and then every time you play a Dude Bruh, he's gonna give the entire board -1 power. So he's gonna let you go, like, you can go Nocturne, and then you can play a couple of dudes, and then you're pushing for lethal. And so this card is, no, this isn't the card that I want to talk about. Stalking Shadows works really nicely. Stalking Shadows is just kind of nuts. So we were talking about how what the value of drawing 2 cards is. Drawing 2 cards is worth somewhere between 3 and 4 mana. You can see that with between Deep Meditation and Salvage. Drawing cards is worth somewhere between 3 and 4. Drawing 2 is worth somewhere between 3 and 4 mana. So this is Burst Speed. Draw 2 cards. Draw two Bruhs from your deck. It's the same one. So this is going to be able to, for that elusive Shadow Isles deck we were talking about, this is going to be able to target draw you 2 specific elusives. It's going to... Oh, this says from the top 4 cards of your deck. So I think there's actually a possibility you play this card and you whiff. I think there's a possibility that you play this card and there just isn't a follower in the top 4 cards of your deck and you just don't get to play anything. But that's very unlikely that that happens. And then this guy is just going to... It'll draw you 2 cards. Those are 2 cards that you can play along with Nocturne. So your Nocturne is going to start giving the board even less stats. They're going to be able to block with even less things. Like if you just draw 2 of the Steigen Wardens or Steigen Onlookers, it's going to give your opponent's board -2 power, and then it's going to let them. They're all going to be able to attack in for a bunch of damage. So I think the Stalking Shadows is going to enable some pretty crazy combos with Nocturne, and even just some pretty crazy combos for the Shadow Isles elusive deck that seems like it might be coming to fruition. We'll talk about Risen Mists, and then we'll take a look at Unspeakable Horror. Risen Mists is... I think this card is excellent. Is it actually going to see much play? I don't know. I don't know about that. But I love the design of this card. I love the idea of us having flash blockers. Right now, the only one in the game that exists is Jury Rig. And then... So there's Jury Rig, there's the Claws of the Dragon, you can sometimes flash those into play. So it's Jury Rig, Claws of the Dragon, and like Rummage of Flame Chompers. I think that's all I could think of to flash in blockers. And if somebody in chat can think of something else, let me know. But those are the only ones I could think of right now. And I love the concept of, one, this is just straight up more Mist Raids for the Mist Wraith deck. And people don't want to, maybe you don't want to admit it, but it's very clear that since the open beta of this game, Mistwraith.deck is just a playable deck. We see it pop its head up every so often. Even just last week, I saw a Mistwraith deck that a friend of mine was considering bringing to a tournament. Like, these Mistwraith decks are decent. Now you have more Mistwraiths for your Mistwraith deck, so you can hit the critical mass. You can now get 12 power fearsome Mistwraiths, which is unreasonable. That's never going to happen, but now it's more likely to happen because you have more Mistwraiths. So that alone is just worth it. So if you think about it, this card is going to be a 4-mana 4/2 fearsome. 4-mana 4/2 burst speed fearsome. And that seems worth 4 mana to me, because that alone, your unit can come in for 4 mana and it can block something and then it kills it. So in that situation, it's a 1-for-1 trade. Your 4 mana is a removal spell. That's good. You're going to be able to play this at the start of combat to summon a dude to trigger your Nightfall, and then you can play another thing. It's like, I just imagine Risen Mist is going to enable some pretty cool stuff, and I whether this card is actually insane or not, I don't think it's insane. I think it's quite good, but I just really like the design of this card moving forward, and that's my favorite part about this. I like the support for Mist Raids, and I like that we're having more burst speed units. I think burst speed units are going to only allow for more interesting gameplay moving forward, because there's a lot more back and forth when you have to worry about a unit that your opponent can play out of nowhere. Alright, and then for the last card that we're going to talk about is going to be Unspeakable Horror. Unspeakable Horror is going to be 2 mana fast, drain 1 from anything, Nightfall, create a random Nightfall card in hand. So this card can create more Unspeakable Horrors, and you can have infinite Unspeakable Horrors. That's unbelievable. That's realistically not going to happen. Maybe you'll high roll, you'll get 1 or 2 Unspeakable Horrors off your Unspeakable Horror. Not likely to happen, but hey, you never know. Why am I always wearing a tie, dude? That's not even the right stream, dude. It's not even the right stream, bro. Oh no. Yeah, I like this card. I like the Unspeakable Horror, man. This is Vile Feast if Vile Feast could go face. The sheer fact that this could go face in Shadow Isles, which we've already discussed, is a class that really lacks reach. Shadow Isles is going to benefit from having that extra 1 point of damage. This card is pretty excellent. And I think this is Nocturne's hero spell too, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is Nocturne's champion spell. I'm like fairly certain that's Nocturne's champion spell. But that is it as far as this set review goes. We're still waiting. We're waiting on the rest. We're hardcore in the Riven waiting room. I'm so excited for when Riven comes out. I'm definitely going to be doing another one of these videos when Riven does come out. But that is going to be it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, please do click that follow button, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, all that jazz. And thank you for stopping by, and I will see you guys all in the next video.